We have 12 days until we leave for Biloxi, Mississippi for Cruisin the Coast 2025. And this year, Lucas wanted to take our 34 Ford. This belonged to my dad. It's been in the family basically my whole life. His best friend owned this back when I was just a child, and I rode all over the country in like my dad's different cars, and I rode in the backseat of this thing a lot as a child. So, like I said, it's been around for a really long time. The car was built in like 1984, and it just needs updating. It's got a Mustang 2 front suspension in it, and it had a 57 Chevrolet rear axle under the back, which was way too wide for one of these cars. So you put a decent wheel on it and it sticks out the fender, or you have to run like a high offset wheel and it has no lip, which to me, both of those choices are ugly. So I have ripped all the suspension, the rear axle out of this car, and I know my dad always wanted to, so now I'm just doing all the things he wanted to do. And we have ordered a brand new rear end from Quick Performance. It's on the way, I hope. And I've got a badass set of wheels that I've been storing for about 10 years. They're a set of American Racing Torque Thrust 2s. They're chrome, not aluminum. So they're a little brighter than what you would normally see. But the lip on the back wheel is good. It's a 15 by 8.5 with I think either a 3.5 or 4 inch backspace. So it's got a giant lip on it, and it looks so good wrapped in those Mickey Thompson tires under the fender of this car. So I set those under there, took a measurement, sent that to Quick. They're building the rear axle right now. And all these goodies right here, we have a coilover conversion for the front, for the Mustang 2. We have a new master cylinder for the brakes, which is leaking under the car. Tubular control arms. We're upgrading the brakes on this car because it's got factory 9-inch rotors, which came on a Mustang 2 originally. We're going to upgrade to 11-inch rotors. We have a bump steer kit, like I said, rear coilovers here. All of this came from Speedway Motors. And I'll put all these part numbers in the description of the video. But right now, we're going to get started on the front suspension. I'm going to rip all the old stuff off and start putting the new stuff on. Here is the Mustang 2 under the 34. Like I said, when this thing's at ride height, the tie rods are pointed way up. So we need to get those down and get those more level. And we're going to replace all the old springs, the old shocks, control arms, all the bushings, ball joints, upgrade the brakes, all of it. We're going to update this car and bring it into the 90s from the 80s. But our master cylinder is leaking. So I have a new booster that came with a kit, I think, for one of the Tri-5s, but it's the same thing. So we're going to replace the booster. We're going to get rid of the cast iron master cylinder with the aluminum one right there. Because if you don't paint these, they just straight up rust. And then back here, I'm going to trim this up. This is where the coilovers used to mount. I'm going to trim all of this out, make it really nice because it's never, it was just kind of hacked up when they built the car. And I also got to trim this right here. That's the bottom of the floor because I want this thing to sit really low and the top of the rear end housing will hit right there. I'm also going to relocate the bump stops here, move them to the inside so it gives me that much more room. Taking the front end apart, and it had Pro shocks in it. I have no idea how old these are, but I'm putting Pro shocks back in there. I have been busting my butt on the 34 here and trying to get it ready for Cruisin the Coast, which is like 10 days away now, 11 days. It has no suspension in it whatsoever. Like the rear end, everything on the back of the car is completely ripped out. The whole front of the car same. Let's see. Everything besides the upper A-arms is ripped off of it. And I'm taking those off too because I'm replacing those. We got our Quick Performance 9-inch mounted in the car. And let me show you how I did it. I am no chassis guy by any means. And I know some of you are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you did it that way. And I don't know. I don't really care. So I've measured the highest point of the arch in the frame on both sides. I've taken multiple measurements and made sure it's identical on both sides. I've taken a measurement of the fender and I dropped strings on all 4 points. And the strings lined up perfectly. So I know I'm in the ballpark. Then what I did to establish my ride height is I cut 2 pieces of metal and I got 2 3-inch exhaust clamps. I measured center on the clamp and then I measured center on both ends of this piece of metal here, tacked it all together so that way my axle tube is dead center. And that'll hold it in place while I make my mounts for the ladder bars and the coilovers. But what I need to do at some point is take this panel right here out because the rear end's actually going to go up into the car for travel. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice because I want the car to set as low as possible. And I'll have about 2 3/4 inch of a gap here of travel, and I'll have to figure out bump stops. But this way I can loosen these up and we can turn it, set our pinion angle, and get everything set up, and then just cut the welds off, clean it up, and we're done. But it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it. Now we get to make some brackets. Rear suspension is almost done. Ladder bars are tacked into position. Our mounts are still up there. Front crossmember is in. Just gotta take this back off, finish weld this. Gotta put the shock mounts on. They're gonna go right here, which I'll do that tomorrow, but the main part is done. So here's what it looks like now. I made this crossmember here and it actually bolts in. That's the shock mounts. I made extended shock mounts for the axle so I can get more travel out of the shock and get it the right height that I wanted. And then I have these that I made, which will go right there. Embrace that. Let's see. I just cut all this with a plasma cutter, cleaned it up. We got our track bar in there. So now all we gotta do is take our clamps loose, drop it out of there, assemble it, paint it, put it back. All right, it's Tuesday. We'll get you guys caught up on the progress of the 34 here. I've been working my butt off and trying to film as I go, but it's tough when you're got a really tight deadline and you're just trying to get it done as quickly as possible. But right now I'll go over everything at the rear end of the car. And then I'm gonna show you guys everything that's going on the front of the car and what's left. The back is pretty much wrapped up. I need to do the brake lines, but I have a brand new booster and master cylinder to replace that one. But this is a Quick Performance 9-inch, has a 389 gear, 31 spline Positrack unit in there. It worked out good because the drive shaft bolted right back up. They put a 1310 yoke on it for me. We have disc brakes on the back now versus drum brakes before. Coilovers from Speedway Motors. I made all these brackets. The ones I had were like mounted the coilover up here, and I want to bring the car down as low as I can. So I extended these and then braced it on the back. And then up here, all I did was plate the frame, 1/4 inch plate across for the front mount for our ladder bars. Mickey Thompson tires on the back, and the wheels these are the chrome torque thrust. They're 15 by 8.5. The tires are the Sportsman SRs. These are 2810s. The fronts are going to be a 26.6. The front end's pretty much torn apart. What I need to do next is remove the upper A-arms. But before I do that, I'm going to let it down. I'm going to mark where they're at, just in case I can't get to the alignment shop, and I can put the new A-arms right where the old ones were. That's the plan. But hopefully I can get all this installed and get over there before we leave. Here is all the new parts. All of this came from Speedway Motors. We got new tubular upper A-arms, lowers, coilover conversion, aluminum master cylinder, because the one that's on there is leaking, and it's cast iron. They always rust. So I got an aluminum one. Got a bump steer kit to go on the rack. So the plan is to get all this right here painted, get all this installed, and get this thing back on the ground on all 4 tires today. Right now I'm going to measure the piston in the back of the master cylinder in reference to where it mounts up to our booster, because the booster has a pin in it that's fully adjustable here, and if you don't get this right, your brakes will not function properly. They will either not have a good pedal, or the brakes will drag because it's either out too far or in too far. A lot of these combos, when you order like a power brake conversion, these will come bolted together, and nobody ever thinks to check this center adjustment here. And I've installed 3 or 4 sets of these, and I've always had to go back and adjust this pin right here. It just screws in and out, and it's got a little jam nut in there to lock it in place. So I'm going to take some measurements on the back of the piston here, and then I'm going to take a measurement from the face of the booster here to our pin. Make sure we have, I like just a little air gap, just a little bit. And then you can just drive the car. And if you still don't have like a good full pedal after you bleed them, you can come adjust this out just a little bit more. But if you don't have a good pedal and you've never taken this apart, that's probably why. All right, according to my measurements, if I would have just bolted this together, threw it under the car, the pin in here would have been out 1/4 of an inch too far, which would have put pressure on the master cylinder, and then the brakes would have drug. So that happened on my 57 when I first threw it together. Like I said, the master was already bolted to the booster. I threw it in the car, and on sick week, the rotors were getting so hot, the grease was melting out of it. And we adjusted the rod under the dash, and then finally split this apart and realized that the pin was out too far, and it completely fixed the problem. It was a totally different car to drive, everything. So I'm going to loosen the jam nut here. I'm going to run this pin down some, because the master cylinder is approximately 7/16 is where it needs to be. So I'm going to run this down and probably go just like a half a turn past 7/16. That way there's just a smidge of an air gap. All right, I got our booster measured now, and turns out if you loosen the jam nut, run the bolt all the way in, it was still out too far. So I pulled the screw out, took the jam nut off, ran the screw all the way in, bottomed it out, tightened it up, took a measurement, and it is perfect. So I was about to go chuck this in the lathe. This is the spacer that goes into the back of the master cylinder. I was going to take some material off of this so this could have room to adjust. But I took the jam nut off, tighten this up real good in here, and I think we should be good. Now we can bolt the master to the booster, put it all up in the car. One thing I did notice when I pulled the brakes off this car is there's no proportioning valve and there's no residual valves. A residual valve is needed when your master cylinder is mounted below your calipers or your drums, like under the floor, like this car is. And it prevents the fluid from draining back down into the master cylinder. And this car was built in the early 80s. None of that stuff is on here. And the brakes have always worked fine. I'm only replacing this stuff because it's leaking and it's old. So now I feel like if I do it the correct way, the brake's probably not going to work as good. So I have a proportioning valve, and I know I have at least one residual valve. It's been a long time since I've needed anything with a residual valve. But if I have to, the Model A in the other garage that we built on the show has 2 residual valves because the master is under the floor and it's disc front and rear. So I know I can go rob those if I need to. I don't want to. Hopefully I have what I need here in the shop. But yeah, the master is bolted to the booster. It's ready to go. So now I'm gonna go ahead and prepare to put new lines on the car and get that mounted back up. I got lucky. I found 2, I actually had 3 of them, but the 2 PSI is for disc brakes. The 10 PSI is for drum brakes. I know that because Google just told me. Then I got proportioning valve, no idea where this came from, but I'm gonna mount this under the car. We should be good to go. All right, I got my first brake line bent here, and I got it cut to length. I just threw it the bandsaw, made quick work of it, and then I'll take a file, a real fine file, and just clean up the edges, deburr it. And now I'm ready to put my flare on it. This tool here is from Eastwood, and if you've never used one, they're absolutely incredible. I have the old style where you had to clamp it in the vise and then, you know, wrap it around the tube, clamp it, do all the crap. So make sure we have the right dies, which is 3/16. That's what stays in there 99% of the time. So put that in there. Make sure your fitting's on there. Put that in there. Clamp it. You're going to go to operation 0. You're going to pull this out, shove this in, make sure everything's where it should be. Tighten this up. Then you're going to go to operation 1 for 3/16. Operation 2 for 3/16. And you're done. Puts a perfect end on it every time. Went to put the front suspension in and hit our first snag. The bolts that hold the coilover on are 1/2 inch, but the bushing that came with the shocks are 7/16. So we choked them in the lathe, drilled them out to 1/2 inch. Now we are good to go. So now we can start assembling the front suspension. All the brakes are done. New booster, master, lines, proportioning valve. All of that is finished. We're getting close. Brakes are on. Brake lines are done. Bump steer kit installed. Probably gonna have to raise the coilovers in the front up a good bit. I don't know. We're about to let it down for the first time and see what it looks like. Ooh, look at them. Yes. It fills up that fender nicely. Damn. It is Thursday night. We are supposed to leave tomorrow, and I am still working on the 34. I have to balance the wheels and tires, throw some mufflers on it, bleed the brakes, and mount our new battery, which I'm going to talk about right now. So this is an excess power. These things are badass. I had one of these in my Nova, my attempted murder Nova, years ago, and that battery was a hand-me-down from Mike Finnegan. He had it in Blasphemy, and when he swapped it over to like a super lightweight battery that weighed 2 or 3 pounds, he asked me if I wanted this one, and me being poor, I said, yeah, absolutely. So I put that battery in the Nova, and it lived there until I sold it. Matter of fact, I think I sold it with the battery still mounted in the trunk. It didn't come back that way though, when I bought it back. But that battery, I never once had to charge it, ever. It never died, and it always worked flawlessly. So I bought another one for the 34. This thing has 1,150 cranking amps. This is the D3400. And originally, the battery was mounted behind the seat in this car. Absolute pain in the ass to get to. And it had like a little small, like Honda Civic style battery in there just to make fit behind there, because there was not a lot of room. But I'm going to move it. I'm going to get rid of all of that. I'm going to put it right here. Back there. Back there. I feel like there's plenty of room under the fender. I've already had the tire on it, and I've kind of moved it back and forth, and it doesn't come nowhere near, you know, that area. So right now I'm gonna fab up a box, mount it to the side of the frame, and it's gonna be right next to the starter, like a foot away. So the cables are gonna be super short, and I shouldn't have no problem cranking this thing over with the 130 horsepower that it has. So yeah, that's right now. Build a box for that. I'm gonna keep chipping away at it. It's gonna be a long night, but man, it's gonna be worth it. I'm not complaining, but it's gonna be worth it once we get to the coast and start cruising around with all my friends. Got our battery mounted, got it all wired up, and once the car is down on the ground, you won't be able to see it. And it's right next to the starter. I even installed one of these little remote kill switches here. It's got a little key fob that you put with your keys to kill battery power. Cotton hooked me up with that, and I can post a link in the description of the video. It's really sweet, and it works really well. But Bert's on his way out here to help me bleed the brakes and set the tow. And then I'm gonna throw some mufflers on it and go test drive this thing. Well, it's Saturday. We were supposed to leave yesterday, but we're still here. Chantel had to work late. I had to get some stuff done here, but I did drive the 34 last night. It did really well. The drive's good, ride's good. The rear coilovers, they settled. So it's about that much shock travel on the back now. So I need to adjust those a little bit, but other than that, the front turned out really well. It sits good in the front. I said the car rides really good, and it likes the new gear change. We went from I think it was either a 342 or 373 to a 390. So I could tell a little difference there. But yeah, it's pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna adjust the coilovers and then give it a good bath. Then we're off to Biloxi. We have made it to Cruisin the Coast 2025. It's a beautiful sight. The 34s did great. We're about to go cruise it right now. It's raining, don't care. I built it to drive. Rain or shine, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cruise the beach. Thank you guys for watching. The next video will be nothing but Cruisin the Coast action. Be sure and check it out. See ya.